Well, if you're catching us here on the replay, this is just a simple 20-second lead in ahead of the show, waiting for ads to play for those who have been patiently waiting in the live chat for us to go. But otherwise, if it's 7 p.m. on a Thursday, that means it's time now for the Car Guy and Six Fan Show. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host tonight. I'm Grant Tommy. I am straight Six Fan or Six Fan of this operation. That means this guy over here.
Oh, you got it right this week. That means it's me. My name is Jason. I'm the car guy of the Car Guy and Six Fan Show. And as we start another Thursday episode, I want to jump into the chat right quick and acknowledge some of the people who jumped in here early. And some of those people are John Wilburn was here, Alan Bolio. We've got the Get Out and Drive crew. Both of them are here tonight. We've got Will's Wheels. And let's see here, Grimm's Auto Service. And Haggard Hot Rods, Narcoleptic Customs. Welcome, guys. Greasy Boy Customs. Dan is in the chat. And welcome to Thursday evening's Car Guy and Six Fan Show.
Yeah, we're really excited about tonight's topic, and I'll probably wind up kind of wussing out and letting Jason set that up for us, because I think he'll just do a better job of kind of setting the stage for the main topic at hand. But I did want to remind everybody that, like the last two seasons, really, on the Car Guy and Six Fan Show, we are still keeping track of the super chats and keeping note of that, keeping our internal records. So into the season, who knows what may happen there. But if you've been with us the last two seasons, you probably have a good idea. Jason, any other house cleaning items before we get into the topic at hand, or do you just want to launch into it?
Yeah, just one quick one. I want everybody to take note of a certain group of guys that are in the chat tonight, and that is the Get Out and Drive podcast guys. John and Sean, which is the Get Out and Drive, is in there, and Mr. Sedan Man. We had them on the show a few weeks back, and they are trying to get the National Get Out and Drive Day program up and running. You don't know what that is, head over to the National Get Out and Drive website and check them out, because all they want you to do is take advantage of this car culture that we love. Get in your car, get out and drive, have fun, take your family, take your wife, take your dog, whatever you got. Go out, make a day of it. First Sunday in October, which is October 3rd, 2021, join the Get Out and Drive gang and sign up. You'll get yourself a sticker. They've got t-shirts just like this handsome one that I'm wearing. And they are our unofficial sponsors of tonight's Car Guy and Six Fan Show. Thanks, guys, for being in the chat. And also, thanks to Narcoleptic Customs for a $5 super chat.
Yeah, something happened weird there when I tried to show it. It cut out. I don't know what's going on with my computer here on this end, but yeah, so tonight, the topic at hand, since this is a legacy episode, there is obviously, you probably picked up by now, there's no interview guest tonight sitting in the guest chair. So it's just Jason and I kicking it old school, just like the going back to the roots of Car Guy and Six Fan Show. We started this as a variety Car Guy podcast, for lack of a better term, live stream format here on YouTube. It wasn't until season 2 that we started doing the guests, but we like to every once in a while just the two of us just lob out a topic. And so, Jason, I'll let you take it from there and kind of set it up for us tonight.
Okay, so we've all been down that road where we've bought something, whether it's a piece of electronics, an appliance, a car, and you've had it for years, and then all of a sudden something breaks on it. And, well, what do? You price up the repair. The repair costs more than the replacement. What do? You turf the old one, you get a new one. Tonight's topic of conversation is planned obsolescence. Is it really a thing? And who's controlling it? So what we're trying to aim at tonight is simply cars. So the idea behind car companies building things not to last, is it done on purpose, or is there a bigger picture to look at tonight? So that's kind of the topic that we want to touch on. And we want to kind of get your guys' input. Grant and I are going to go back and forth on some issues and some topics related to that. And the first one that I want to get at is kind of start the ball rolling with, how the car culture became evolved. It started off Henry Ford with the assembly line, and it moved up to robots in the 60s and 70s putting vehicles together. And then now today, it's almost all robots and computers and this and that. But it's all about making the almighty dollar. And how do they make more with less? Well, they build it cheaper. So, Grant, what are some of the things that come to mind when we're talking about planned obsolescence in the car community that come to your mind right off the bat? What's maybe an example of something that's happened to you that you can say, I think they must have done that on purpose?
Well, I really want to take the counter approach and talk about how I don't think it exists, but I'll try to table that for later in the discussion. So, man, I things in the car culture that definitely just seem like they phase themselves out on purpose too early. Um, you know what? I'm gonna take the alternate route. I'm gonna go flip the script on you a little bit and poke fun at everybody. Knows I'm the Ford guy here in this operation. I'm kind of a diehard Ford guy, but uh, I I can admit and poke fun enough at like they've had some of the longest. They almost don't flip over their generation fast enough sometimes. You talked about Henry Ford. He was as stubborn as possible and really thought the Model T was good enough for like over a decade. And his son tried to talk him into the new and improved Model A, and he still didn't want to change. The twin I-beam front suspension on F-150s went from like 1960 to 1996. Now they did like change over the design of it a little bit starting in 1980, but still 80 to 96 is 16 years of stubbornness and not changing it. And it was a way out of date. You know, you can't keep those things aligned. You just chew up tires. The control arm setup's always been better, and they just refuse to update things. And even the 300 cubic inch inline six, I was having a discussion with somebody, and again, it probably ran that 240 300 block ran probably from like 66 to 96, so 30 years. The Panther platform, how long was that? That really, you know, the two valve, like, nope, it's good. It's going to keep mass producing. So, in some instances, I almost think I'm more willing to debate the reverse of that. But Jason, what comes first to mind for you when you were thinking about the topic of planned obsolescence?
So I guess I look back at, back in the, the 50s, 60s, 70s, in the heyday of mass production of vehicles. And, you were lucky if you had a car last you 100,000 miles. You were doing regular tune-ups at 30,000, 40,000 miles, and you were setting points and you were doing this and you're doing that. And we've evolved into a situation where today I probably can comfortably say that any manufacturer out there has a capability of producing an engine or drivetrain package that lasts a couple 100,000 miles. So where do we go? Why do engines last longer? Are we making them out of better products? Are we making them out of lighter products? Is there more engineering going into them? And one example of a video that I watched earlier this week was a thermostat housing on a Mini Cooper. Today, they're made of plastic, and generally speaking, they last about 50 to 60,000 miles. And years ago, you made them out of either aluminum or cast, and they lasted forever. You never had a problem with that. Maybe the gasket would go bad. So why are we making them out of plastic today versus the tried and true cast iron or aluminum back in the day? Well, because we got to do something to keep the cost down. So manufacturers know that they run on dollars. They got to make it cheaper. They got to be able to mass produce it better. And plastic is by far a lot cheaper than metal. So that's one example of a planned obsolescence. Did they plan that this piece of plastic is going to last forever? No, they engineered it knowing that it's going to have so many heat cycles in its life expectancy, no different than a piece of suspension that's going to have so many movements before it fails. The object is, let's get it outside of the manufacturer's warranty before it fails, because after that, chances are people who own cars today, if they're out of warranty, aren't going back to the manufacturing dealer to get it serviced. Yeah, that's where the aftermarket comes in.
Well, see, and this is where I almost want to again take the. I think tonight's going to be interesting because I think Jason and I will be on kind of opposite ends of this for quite often,
Which is why we do it this way.
yeah,
It's always good to have both sides,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So like the plastic thermostat, like just thinking about that and what comes to mind, and this is, I mean, I'm sensitive to it here in 2021 as an architect, so I feel like I can feel for designers and engineers a little bit here, where I'll try not to go too far down the nerdy architecture road, but when we build projects, we draw it, but then we also have specification books that explain all the nitty gritty details about, hey, well, I want you to clad this thing in metal, and it needs to be hit the certain performance criteria, yada yada yada, that kind of thing. Um, I've keep saying in 2021 is the year we shouldn't have even bothered writing specifications, because whatever product you wanted to throw on your building is just not available. And so it just pains me so much to be like, then the contractor comes to me and says, hey, can we do this substitution? Can we put this on? And I look at it and I'm like, well, it's really not meeting the performance criteria we laid out. It's really not an equal. Well, but you just can't physically get anything. So look at the super chip shortage that we're going through here in 2021 from the automotive side. And how many like concessions do people have to live with? Because think about the pressure in Detroit and automotive manufacturing of like, no, we've been talking this 2021 Ford. Younger brother's ordered a Ford Bronco, and his build date's been pushed back 1,800 times, and he's about lost it 1,700 times. Um, just think about the pressure from executives like, no, we've got to roll out this model year by a certain time. And so I feel like sometimes something as simple as like a plastic thermostat may be a byproduct of just crappy circumstance, and we don't really know the backstory. So anyway, that's my take there.
Grant, if you can pop up Iron Horse Garage's comment there, just yep. If it lasts forever, they want to redesign it. So a perfect example is a shirt you're wearing. You had mentioned it earlier, is the Ford Inline 6, the 300. Those things were almost bulletproof. They were great engines right out of the gate, and they kept them around for so long because they were so reliable. But I think to some degree, why do they change an engine? Why do they make an engine different, or why do they do away with a specific engine? The Ford Inline 6, the 306, did they get rid of that because it was too good and they weren't selling enough parts? Or did they feel there was something maybe more efficient out there that was going to give you just as much power, just as much economy, just as much reliability over the long term? And you talked about the Panther platform, same thing. You kept it around for so long that the cars were just getting outdated. Were they hella reliable? Sure, they were, but they just weren't selling the parts. That's the way I look at it. They weren't selling the parts they needed to keep the parts room going because of that. It's I just question sometimes why things change for something different. GM back in the 90s, they had the 3.1. They were piston slappers. They were head gasket burners. But they kept them around for so long, and they put them in every damn vehicle going, knowing full well. And then when they upgraded to the 3.4, it was the same engine. It was just a little bit bigger, but they had the same problems. So why wouldn't they fix it? Because when they turned 100 or 120,000 miles, they were blowing head gaskets. People were getting money for the shop repairs. They were getting money for the gaskets. This is some of the things that I look at and I question, why did they keep them around so long and not fix the problem? You brought it up earlier. GM is still having the problem with the daytime running lights on certain vehicles, on their pickup trucks, where you always see them going with just one daytime running light. Why is that? They haven't fixed it since 1999. So I don't know. Those are things that run through my mind when I think planned obsolescence. Let's keep building junk that lasts just long enough to get it out of warranty, and then we can replace it with an even bigger piece of junk, like the new, what is it? GM's got the 2.5s in their Equinox and their Terrains that are oil burners. They're known to be. They just become a problem.
And I hope what we're doing for the chat tonight, for the viewers in the replay, is at least provoking enough thought to think about just how hard it would be to work in that job, though, because here we are being critical of like, hey, dude, you had a good thing going. Why not let this motor run for another 30 years? Why not produce it for 60 years? Like, and then, we can always sit here and be critical of you did it too long or you did it too short. Why didn't you keep making this kind of thing? Like I know the early EcoBoost motors, like in my wife's Mustang, the 2.3 liter, they're known to they have this little problem called eco boom, where they like to throw explode. And supposedly, the 2015 hers is a first model year, and there's so many common examples of this, right? The first model year is never the best. You have to learn, and you have to. So, and again, from a designer standpoint, I always think about the designer's point of view. Okay, well, let's move on from the 300 inline six, and then I think in that 97 F-150, you could have got the 4.2 liter V6, and they tried something different, and that was a pretty reliable motor too. So I kind of like I guess the designer in me is being like, well, you know what, you decided to try something new, and you don't know if it's going to work or if it isn't, but it's just change, right? I know what I have. Keep doing that for a 31st year, 32nd, or do we try something new?
Yeah, it's one thing to build something and continually build on it and evolve. The GM 4.3 liter V6 has been around for, oh my soul, 25 years now. Of course, the ones from I think 2014 and up are supposedly new. They still bear the same displacement, but there's an engine that was tried and true for a long time. And like one of the things that we want to be critical. That's just our human nature, is to say, you're doing it wrong. Why couldn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it that way? Because it takes millions and millions and millions of dollars to come up with something new, completely new. You talked about the 4.2 liter V6 and those Fords. Those 4.2 liter V6s were only around a couple of years. They weren't readily available. They didn't put them in a lot of vehicles because they had the ones that they knew were working well. They had the 2.7 in the later years, 2.7s and 3.5s and 5 liters. And now, you get the 2.3 EcoBoost. So when we talk about why didn't you change it, what I'm saying is GM developed this 3.1 early in the 90s, or actually late 80s, early 90s. And it became a head gasket machine. So at what point do you stop production of that engine and either completely scrap it or put a different head gasket in it? Fix the head gasket problem, find out what's going on, and then continue production. In today's society, if you've got a car that's running down the assembly line and there's a known problem, they'll stop the assembly line, they'll stop production, figure out what the problem is, go back and fix it so that you, the retailer, or you, the buyer, who's taken that end product, isn't going to have the issue down the road. Do we still see issues in first year production cars? Sure we do. All I'm saying is why continue making the mistakes you've always made? Status quo is not always good.
Yeah, and I think Monster Rust, he throws out a really interesting comment that I really want to bite on. He says innovation can hurt the car hobby, which honestly I would need him to explain more, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, I saw Greasy Boy Customs and Get Out and Drive kind of going back and forth on the Ford Y block, how it screwed up the flathead era, and Dan was like, no, it was too little too late. I mean, the flathead had run its course and too long, and they were falling behind in competition. So I'm curious, Monster Rust, when you say innovation can hurt the car hobby, it's like if you're not out there trying to do better and trying to improve on what you already know. Like, I mean, that to me, I think the opposite's true. The whole spirit of hot rodding is trying to get an edge up on your competition, and thinking about all the people who was the first person who decided, I'm going to port this cylinder head, so I think I can get this thing to flow more air. Who was the first person that looked at a cylinder head off of the block and was like, wait a second, nobody's going to see this? Like, I feel like innovation only enhances the car hobby. So what say you, Jason?
Well, I think when he talks about innovation, I think, when you talk about making improvements to certain things, and hurting the car hobby, let's take a look at the. I don't know why we're stuck on. Oh, I guess we're not stuck on Fords. I was talking GMs a little bit ago. The new Coyote engines, the new 5 liters. They've only been out for 10 years, and they've already got 4 generations of that engine. Why? Because the first ones had issues. They fixed them with the second one. The second one had a few issues. They fixed it with a 3rd generation. They kept getting more power, more economy out of them, doing whatever they're doing to them. So when it comes to the car hobby, people looking for certain engines, there might be 100,000 of those early first generation 5 liters out there. Nobody wants them. So you've got to be looking for certain things. Same thing with the LSs. You got your LS1s, 2s, 3s, whatever. You got your truck motors, you got your car motors, you got your this or that. Different things people are looking for, the different heads on different vehicles. You start changing things so much that it makes it impossible for the aftermarket car world to jump in and be a part of that and keep up with the changes.
So John Wilburn also throws another interesting topic out. So this is good. I feel like we're getting a lot from the chat, like kind of some launching points and some springboards here for discussion, and this is great. So John Wilburn says the quote unquote innovators have fixed so much that wasn't broken that now nothing works. And again, I'm going to take I'll take the opposite side of that one as well. So I'll just talk about the last 3 daily drivers that we've bought for my wife, or I mean the household really. 2004 Mazda 3 I bought with 43,000 miles, took it 213,000 miles, and the worst thing I did on that was change a thermostat. I mean, like honest. Oh, there was a control arm. The ball joint was integral to the control arm, so I had to replace the whole control arm. But literally, so in like the 180,000 miles I drove that was about it for maintenance, aside from changing oil. 2010 Ford Taurus. The thing it went into the shop for was, of course, this guy screwing up a brake, which no one's surprised here on the car show. And then the heated seat went out, and I'm not an electrical guy. And we had that car from 60,000 to 160,000. So in 100,000 miles, the worst repair on it was getting a heated seat repaired. And then our current Ford Mustang we've owned since 72,000 miles, and we are at, I think, 125,000. So we've put 50,000. No, I'm overselling that. 72 to, I think it's in the 100 teens. And worst thing on that has been, I think, water pump. I think a water pump was starting to go out. It was leaking a little. So I would tell you that if you took my 1978 Ford Fairmont, it was not designed to go 180,000 miles with that little repair on it. It would be telling me we needed to tune the carb 700 times over. It would tell me it would need to probably be bored out by now. It's at $72,000. 72,000. It's under 70,000 original miles right now, my Fairmont. And I did have the heads off. And I can tell you, it did not pass the fingernail test of where the rings. I should have probably bored it out, but I didn't because it's a budget build. And so I'm just saying, I take issue to that. I don't think Detroit's making crap.
Well, again, we're playing opposite sides here, right? So I think Detroit is making crap, and I'll give you an example. I'll give you my example. As a used car dealer, I see a lot of crap roll through my lot. And when people come in and want to buy cars, they're price shopping. So ask me, why is the 2015 Toyota Corolla $3,000 more than the 2015 Chevy Cruze with the same mileage and same options? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Chevy Cruze, or GM, wants you to buy that car. They want you to drive it till about 100 or 150,000, and they want you to buy a new one. If it gets there. Toyota, on the other hand, says, I want you to buy this car, and I want you to drive it for 10 years. Why? Because we know it's going to last for 10 years. We know your cost of ownership is going to be less for 10 years. And that's why the resale value is higher, because it's more desirable by people who know better. So why is it Japan can build a car that lasts 10 years to the first or second owner without major repair, but then GM, Ford, Chrysler are building them to get through the warranty so they can sell you another car? Answer that.
Well, I think also think it's a byproduct of the modern day car is society. So again, not to pick on you, John Wilburn, but I will. No, not. He says newer cars run longer without major service, but are virtually irreparable once they do. I prefer to control my own destiny and have vehicles I can always keep running. And I think just the consumer base, right? Like, so if I think about my parents' generation, really, maybe a little older for sure. So, like my dad and mom and dad graduated high school right around 1970, plus or minus a few years there. And back then, I mean, that was society, but kind of gotten dumber as like, how many people do you know don't even know how to change a flat tire? And you're like, oh, it's pretty simple. There's 4, 5, maybe 6 things you spin off. Like it's not that hard. I think society has kind of forced engineers to make cars that do last longer. That all you have to do is hopefully watch the oil level, between oil changes and kind of call it good at that. But I don't know. I personally think I, I don't know that my 1978 Ford Fairmont would not have lasted as long as my Mazda 3. I'll just put it that way.
Well, I see Turlo's Garage made a comment that he thinks newer cars are easily repairable. And I guess there's two sides to that. One of them is if you can plug in your scanner and find out what's wrong with it, and it's a bad sensor or this or that, yeah, okay, that's one thing. But mechanically, the cars are just like the engines themselves. They're built with tighter tolerances under the hood so that when it comes time to work on things, changing a belt, changing your serpentine belt on these cars nowadays it becomes a lot of becomes an issue. Sometimes changing the oil on some of these cars, although it's supposed to be the easiest thing that you can do. I did an episode on it back on my channel quite a while ago about why would you make an oil filter so difficult to change when it's supposed to be the lifeblood of your vehicle. You make it difficult and people aren't going to do it. So I think that if engineers, these big engineers that get paid a lot of money to piss off mechanics, did a little bit more hands-on, then I think they would realize that, okay, if I'm the guy that's got to change that oil filter, or if I'm the guy that's got to change that timing belt because it goes at 100,000, or if I'm the guy that's got to change that timing chain, GM, then you're going to have to make it a little bit more easily accessible and easier to repair. Why? Because you designed it and you know it's going to be problematic at a certain time in its life.
Yeah, what's the classic? There's a classic internet meme that shows like an alternator that's stuck. It's like put underneath like the intake manifold. Like you would have to remove the upper intake manifold, the lower intake manifold, just to change an alternator.
Oh yeah, starters are sometimes in the V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I this is probably as close as I'll come to agreeing with you tonight. Jeez, that sounds bad, but this has been a really cordial conversation. That I used to think that exact same way. It's like, well, these Nimrods, these engineers, like they're not, they're not thinking about this. Well, having lived the designer life, like I've had several projects in architecture where like you try your hardest to plan everything through, and someone doesn't tell you enough information about like the one that comes to mind, like a mechanical engineer, didn't really draw their stuff accurately. So what I saw in my 3D model, all of a sudden became a head knocker. Like code won't let me put a door head height lower than 6'8", and this like right inside of a mechanical penthouse for a door, there's a giant duct that was like 6'6", and it's like, and I don't know how you missed it, but it's being constructed and like physically, there's nothing else you can do. Again, I guess I'm a little sensitive to the engineers that are feeling pressure from executives, like you just got to get this car out. Like it doesn't matter, like figure it out. And then I think, you know, you don't know the backstory. You don't know the in a vacuum how to isolate it. Like, how did we end up with this? And I bet you there's a designer there's like, oh my god, I did not want to do that, but here's what happened. Like I don't know. I'm not saying that's the answer for everyone. That there are some definitely just we all make mistakes. We're all human. We just screw up. I'm not the most flawless designer either, but I don't know. I'm just a little more sensitive to that for sure.
So we are getting we're at the half-hour mark of the show tonight, and I do want to give you guys the opportunity to tell your story. So whether you're in the chat tonight or you're watching this after the fact, if you've got a great planned obsolescence story, you've heard what we've been talking about tonight, go ahead and leave your story down in the chat. We'd love to read that. We love reading your comments, and make sure that if you haven't already, give this video a like, because it is something that we're having fun with tonight, and we'd really like YouTube to catch this one and throw it out there for everyone to watch.
And again, John's kind of commenter of the night, but I love this. And that what he's saying is true because he has a Virginia Tech hat on in his avatar. So anyway, yeah, definitely the '90s, the most of the '90s, it was still kind of a dark era for Detroit. They were definitely the quality of automobile from like 1980 to 1990, probably seven, just wasn't there for sure. I will agree with that. But I did want to go back to his earlier comment about being able to work on your own car, and that's another like classic easy saying that a lot of people say that I take issue with. It always seems like it's a reaction to, well, it's new and I don't know it, so it's not as good as what I know. They've been doing carburetors for 45 years, so I know 45 years worth of things. I don't hands off, don't want it, but I can tell you that, like, I remember when I was first getting into cars with my 95 Ford F-150, said the same thing about the fuel injection system. That you look back now at what a 1995 96 OBD2 mass airflow fuel, it's simple. It's simple to work on. It's not. It seemed Greek to everybody because things hadn't rolled through shops and had problems yet, and people hadn't figured out how to troubleshoot it. Like, this is what we go through all generations and all cycles of automobiles.
I've got my dad's friends that hang out at our shop all the time, and one of the guys, every new vehicle he gets, still pulls the ABS fuse out of the truck because he doesn't think ABS works. And I always poke fun of him. I say, John, I shouldn't have used his name. Anyways, we'll call him John. You don't think that the engineers and everybody on the planet who has ever experienced ABS brakes believes in ABS brakes, and you're the only one that pulls the fuse because you don't think it works? Yeah, probably not the case. But anyways, I love to poke fun of them. We are at 33 minutes, so I think it's time to kind of close things up, guys. The comments have been great. John Wilburn, he's been kind of getting picked on with his questions, but he's been making some really good points. But a lot of you guys in the chat have been really super engaging tonight with this topic, and it was just kind of something that flowed after one of our shows a few weeks ago that we said, you know what, Grant and I got into a big conversation about it and said we need to just hold on to that and make it a topic of conversation for a legacy episode. And I think it was great. I like the fact that Grant kind of played the devil's advocate a little bit on some of the topics, but that's what you need. That's part of great reporting or great storytelling or great TV show, is knowing both sides and hearing a little bit of both, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and since we did pick on John so much through the show, I did want to say if you need help with an automatic transmission, especially a Mopar, like go check out John's content, and he'll set you straight. And that's definitely it's Greek to me. That's way out of my arena, automatic transmissions. So definitely go check it out. So
go ahead.
Well, hopefully you were gonna. I was just gonna pick on John one last time.
Go ahead. I'll let you pick on him, and then we'll talk about some upcoming episodes.
He was offering. We've had Uncle Tony on this show here on the CARRGUY and SIXFAN show as a guest, and was sort of throwing the invite out that we should do a roundtable with the two of us. And
why not?
Uncle Tony, and yeah, I think that sounds like a good time. So definitely, John, if you could help facilitate that, we're certainly open to that.
And I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that the next couple of weeks coming up on the Car Guy and SIXFAN show are going to be a little bit different than you've seen before. Next week is going to be a guest week. We do have Zach from AMD and Auto Metal Direct. He's going to be joining us talking a little bit about Auto Metal Direct and the aftermarket body panels and stuff like that they offer. The following week and the week after that, Grant is on vacation. He's going to be away and actually out of the country, out of the continent, I think.
Yep.
So
technically Europe.
Yeah, so technically he'll be in Europe, and we've got a couple of. I'll be hosting the show for a couple of weeks after that, and we've got, at your guys' request, Ken from Whalen Wire, and we've also got. What do we got? Oh,
I don't have the schedule up. Let me.
Yeah, I got the schedule up, and I'm wondering why we don't have a guest in there, but we'll make sure that we got somebody in there for the following week. But nevertheless, I'll be hosting it for a few weeks in that little time period that Grant's not around. And for the first week on September the 2nd, Mike from NARC Selected Customs is going to be co-hosting with me because Grant is away. And I think Mike is still in the chat. And if he is, Mike, go ahead and give a holler. And if you don't know who he is, make sure you check out his channel because he's got some pretty cool stuff going on over there.
Jason, your commentary about the pulling the ABS fuse, it just made me think of automatically. I had a great aunt. I don't know when she passed away, but she was kind of a character, and she later in life, like for some reason, fell in love with Subarus. And you remember the automatic seatbelt? Like, I mean, how lazy could you get? It just like it hit her in the wrong spot, and it just bugged her. So her solution was scissors. So she just had the lap belt. So nope.
Yep. Hey, whatever works. Yeah, so the following week, once I find out who our guest is for the 9th, Roy Marco's the 9th. I got my dates all mixed up. Just stay tuned, guys. Just follow along. We're just kind of going by the seat of our pants here, like we do every week. But we do have some great guests coming up and some good co-hosts coming. Like I said, Mike from NARC Selected Customs is going to be filling in for Grant one week, and I think Luke from Coastal Auto Reaction is going to be filling in the other week. So having said that, I know that we've got what's that? I need to sneak over and cover it. Yep, I'll let you handle that one.
No, I'll just let John have that one. We kicked at him enough that I just thought it was funny. So Jason, real quick, so we'll wrap it up, we'll shut it down. But if you wanted to just real quick as upcoming content over on Old Car Guide, do you want to throw something out there?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we've got coming up. One is I've ordered a bunch of just regular tune-up items for the Yugo. We did have it running. We had it out on the road. I've got 4 new tires, a timing belt, and plugs, wires, all that good stuff. And I'm going to start driving it. We're going to try and get rid of all the vacuum and all that stuff that's on it because it seems to be quite problematic. If you didn't see my post on Instagram today, it's probably because you're not following me on Instagram. So go over to @OldCarGuy and follow me. You'll know that this morning on my way to work, I hit a small deer with Dale the truck. And somebody told me I should be calling it Dale the Deer Killer. But nevertheless, some minimal damage. It's all cosmetic, but nevertheless, there is some damage. I've got a local fella here who is a body man who's willing to help me put a video together to show you what we're going to do to fix that up. So we got some videos coming up on that. Grant, what do you got coming up on the Straight Six Fan?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. As you guys may have noticed, the content's been a struggle here recently, and it's been a really crazy week between my 2 jobs. Of course, now I'm down to 1. So if you saw Wednesday's upload, and got carpet installed in the house here yesterday. So life's been kind of like flipped upside down. I really don't know what's going to come up on CARRGUY and SIXFAN show, but I will tell you what is definitely not too far off in the distance is it's time to take the Rat Rod radio flyer back out of storage, and there's some things that just drastically need fixed on it. So steering needs to be upgraded. I have a billet connecting rod that who knows if I'll put that in or not, but that would allow me to remove the governor and things like that. And what else? Oh, so I believe what the last time I had it out, it would run really well, like from cold start till a while. When it got warm, it would just die constantly. And what I think I figured out was I think I was just vapor locking myself with my header. It was way too close to the gas tank. So we're hoping to do a carb upgrade, relocate the gas tank, and hopefully kind of get that thing consistently running. But
Sounds like a Yugo.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, when you were talking about deleting all the vacuum stuff, it reminded me of, I think it was on Uncle Tony's live one time. He's making a joke about how in the 1970s, it was just, there were too many vacuum line farms that had too many bountiful harvests of vacuum lines, that everything from that era just got slathered with vacuum lines. And isn't that the truth?
Yeah, Haggard Hot Rods just made one last comment that we really need to we need to discuss just for a second, and that's keeping up with the Joneses. Absolutely. We talked about planned obsolescence. Well, some of it has to do with the fact that we just want the best, the newest, the brightest, the smelliest, the whatever it happens to be, to impress our neighbors. So when you go to the Apple store to get that new iPhone, or you go to Best Buy or wherever you guys go to buy your TVs, and you get the 85-inch instead of the 80-inch, like, all you're doing is showing the world just how big or small your ego is. And, you just want to keep up. So just remember that. Do you really need that $80,000 Dodge Ram just because your neighbor bought a $75,000 one?
Jason, I just wanted to say, so tonight, the conversation was enjoyable for sure, but it was some unique kind of enjoyable, that I can't put my finger on. This was fun. So I appreciate it. And I think this is a good place to end it. And so I'll let you close us out, as is the custom here in CARRGUY and SIXFAN show. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, if there's any in there, we do alternate from week to week. So next week it is on Jason's channel. Hopefully I can join in the chat. Those 2 weeks I'm on vacation from Iceland from about midnight to 1 a.m. in the morning. If I have a strong enough Wi-Fi signal, hopefully I can join the chat, but we shall see. Take us on home, Jason.
Yeah, once again, guys, head on over to the Get Out and Drive podcast. Those guys were on our show a couple weeks ago. Great couple of guys, lots of great topics of conversation. They do have a podcast, and don't forget to get out and drive on October 3rd. It's been great. Had a lot of fun. Again, the feeling is mutual. Lots of great discussion back and forth between the two of us and the chat. Guys, thanks for tuning into the CARRGUY and SIXFAN show this Thursday evening. We'll see you next week over on my channel. Stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. We'll see you next week.